I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the meeting is officially called to order. I'd like to begin with roll call, please.
Brad Hint.
Here.
Sean Brewster.
Here.
Pete Hamill.
Here.
Wayne Barahona.
Here.
Tom Eggers.
Here.
And just for those of you that are sitting here, they are participating by teleconference today. I don't know if I've ever had this before. This may be a first for Sheldon City Council. But thank you guys for being willing to join us by phone.
Thanks for making the provision. Appreciate it.
All right. All right. You have before you guys, you have the agenda in front of you. Are there any additions or changes that need to be made? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Brewster.
Aye.
Hamill. Hamill.
Aye.
Barahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
All right. The next item on our agenda, Eric, I'd like to ask you to come forward. Take your oath.
I, Eric Monarchy,
Do solemnly swear
that
I will uphold all the laws
of
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Iowa,
the state of Iowa,
and the city of Sheldon.
and the city of Sheldon.
I will faithfully and impartially,
To the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of the office of police officer
discharge all the duties of the office of police officer
for the city of Sheldon, Iowa,
for the city of Sheldon, Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There are extra copies. You get two and you get two.
You got the letter in there for the no trade clause too, right? You're stuck here, Meineke.
32 years minimum.
That should be about right.
It's hard to do when there's people watching.
Just think of it as a traffic ticket. That's right.
I think these are for you.
All right, now is our time for public comments. Anyone here that would like to speak to anything not being covered on the agenda? Okay. And then we have with us Kiana Johnson from O'Brien County Economic Development for her annual report. She's been here many times. We are glad to have you back. We'd like to hear what's going on, your update.
Well, thank you. I have a brief report, and I put copies down for you. And then if you have questions at all, just ask away, interrupt. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kiana Johnson with the O'Brien County Economic Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit organization. We formed in 1989. We are to serve all the communities of O'Brien County, so therefore we have a board member from each of those communities, and then one board of supervisor rotates off and on our board. So your Sheldon representative is Kurt Strouth, so at any time if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can address any of the members, myself, or Kurt. We also have some other committee members that represent Sheldon. Our revolving loan fund committee, your Sheldon representative is Dan Mattis. And then our O'Brien County Tourism Committee, we have Chanel Mattis, Nancy McDowell, and just recently we recruited Tricia Mendering. So if you have anyone else that you think should be on that committee, please let us know. We are trying to grow that committee with a few more representatives. So we're excited to have Tricia join us this year. Regionally, we like to work together, and I think recently we've been, in the last few years, having some really good partnerships with the city of Sheldon. And I think one of the greatest partnerships between Kurt and I was the creation of the O'Brien County Career Day. It's been a great asset to the county, the schools, and the cities. So this year we celebrated our 3rd annual Career Day. That was April 26th. And we have been able to bring approximately 300 students to businesses in O'Brien County. We started out just with manufacturing, and from there we've added healthcare, and then this year we added agribusiness. So it's growing. We're getting great feedback. Exciting to see where in 5 years if we've made an impact on those students, if they're going to come back. And what we're trying to tell them is that we have jobs here, we have good jobs here, and we want them to come back. So we want them to stay here, we want them to have a future with us, and hopefully that's the message we're getting through to them. Workforce is really crucial right now, and that's what we're hearing from our employers. They need workers, and we have, a bunch of students every year that are graduating, and we need to get that message to them so that they know they're welcome back. And when I say back, not that I'm anticipating they're all leaving, but if they go to college, and along with that too, we have NCC here in Sheldon, so we have education for them as well, but they're always welcome. Also, a new partnership this year is we partnered with the Sheldon Chamber and Development Corporation for the Homecoming Scholarship Program. That goes along with the Career Days. Our young people come back and have their careers and their future here. So we have committed to $6,000 to the Homecoming Scholarship Program. And Sheldon was our first partner, but we are opening that up to the other communities in O'Brien County. We'd love to partner with them with the same type of program. Another partnership which we've had for since 1989 is the revolving loan fund. We started the pool of money, growing the pool of money in 1989. It was in 1993 that we made our first loan. And from 1993 to 2018, we have grown our pool of money to over $4 million. Out of that $4 million, $1 million has gone into the city of Sheldon to assist with business development and recruitment. So we're really excited to have that partnership with Sheldon and to continue that partnership. And we don't have to partner with the Sheldon Chamber in order to do that. We can both individually loan money to the businesses here.
So of that pool, I'm going to interrupt you just a second.
Yep.
I'm thinking about, of that pool, you said you have $4 million, $1 million to Sheldon. Is some of it also spread out through other communities?
Yep. So the pool of money is $4 million. $1 million of that went to the Sheldon businesses. So yes, we have done loans in every community in O'Brien County.
Great.
Yep. And then out of those loans, we're able to track the capital investment those projects have made, and that exceeds $40 million, along with the assessed value that they're creating. And then we do track the jobs created and jobs retained. So out of those projects we've assisted, we've created 345 jobs. Not we, the businesses have. And we've been able to retain 196. And those are jobs that otherwise would have been lost without the revolving loan funds.
Great.
We do have government funds, so we do get audited every year, and in 2018, Williams & Company did issue a favorable audit. So just to kind of outline where those funds came from when we grew that pool of money. Like I said, in 1989, the corporation started a county fund, but those funds didn't grow fast enough for us to get them out the door. So we're looking for other resources when we utilize the USDA revolving loan fund program. So in 2006, we received $500,000 from the USDA. In 2014, we received an additional $5,000. Those funds we were able to acquire from the city of Storm Lake. They had a revolving loan fund they weren't using. Those were federal funds. So the USDA, we had loans exceeding $500,000 already approved, so we could have got the money out the door right away. So the USDA proposed to Storm Lake they could give 10 or they could give it to us. So they decided to keep it locally, and they transferred those funds to us, which we were able to get out the door within the year. And then in 2015, we received a grant. We scored the 9th highest in the nation out of 385 applications. We score very high because we have an excellent revolving loan fund committee. It's made up of lenders from each of the communities. Yours is Dan Mattis. They do a really good job in working through the applications, approving the lot applications, and then working with the applicants through the process. And then in 2017, we just received an additional $500,000. So currently, those initial funds are all out the door and revolving back in. At the end of last year, 2018, we went through a strategic planning session with all of our committees, and the tourism committee developed some objectives for the next year. I shouldn't say next year, 3 years. So a few of the things they want to develop is exploring. We already are starting the process of a new website, promoting tours for students and groups, developing day trip itineraries, which will be on the website, tourism champions, and that's pretty simple. What we really want to do with that, with our new website, is just get every community, every chamber out promoting the sites and attractions in O'Brien County. When we're looking at recruiting people and retaining life, they all go hand in hand. So we need things for people to do. They want to be here. We want to show them what we have. So we're working on that. And like I said, we're adding a few more members to the committee. So if there's somebody we've missed, please let me know. And then we also have the Value Added Egg Steering Committee. This is one of our longest serving committees. It was all actually formed the same year as the corporation. They've been very resourceful and useful in the recruitment of agribusiness in O'Brien County. And every year they do give out the Egg Hall of Fame Award. This year will be presented Monday night at the O'Brien County Fair at 7:50. A few of their strategic plan actions are to advocate for key infrastructure expansion improvement, farm ownership, succession and estate planning, and then, which we've already done, is integrate the agribusiness trend as well. Another regional partnership is the Northwest Iowa Development Group. O'Brien County Economic Development pays for that membership for every community in O'Brien County. To be a member, Kurt was the president of that group last year. He just handed the reins over July 1st, so good job, Kurt. Yeah, not to me though. And a few of the things we worked on that I think have been really successful is the development and creation of the foreign trade zone and for our manufacturing careers. So those are a few of the things we've done regionally, and working together regionally has been very successful for us. We just can't do things alone anymore. We have to work together. And then also with the contribution dollars we get, because we are funded solely off contribution dollars from the cities and the county, the utilities, and local businesses. We operate roughly with about a budget of about $160,000 a year. So out of those funds, we leverage those funds so we can do other programming. So with those funds, we apply for grants and loans, which include the revolving loan fund dollars that we get. And I'd like to show you that we are good stewards of that money received in grant dollars, over $256,000 over the years, and then loan dollars with over $1,500,000. And we couldn't have done that without the contribution dollars we have. So I'd just really like to thank you for your support, your contributions, and we look forward to working together. next year. So do you have any questions or comments for me?
Yes.
I've said it to you before, but I'll say it again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My business wouldn't be here without you guys. So
Worked with you quite a bit. We
yep,
really appreciate it.
the great work the development team does.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We've enjoyed working with you.
Questions on my left? No. I just have one question. In terms of your job and looking ahead to this coming year, what do you see as your biggest challenges? Maybe challenge. Let's just limit it to one.
Well, our biggest challenge, which is probably right along with housing, is another challenge. My job's a little different, that I'm county-based instead of citywide, but, resources, trying to get the information to the communities, how we can help them. But workforce is probably our biggest challenge.
Good. Yeah, I echo Wayne's sentiments as well. We thank you for your continued work, pulling all the county together. It's good for the county, it's good for Sheldon, it's good for Sheldon, it's good for the county. So thank you for your report.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. All right, moving forward, we have our consent agenda here. Any comments or any changes that anybody had? I have just one, and that had to do with the appointments, the Board of Adjustment.
It's under old business, Mayor.
Yeah, but it's listed in the minutes that they have been appointed already.
Oh,
And so we need to make that correct. Two positions, Board of Adjustments and the Airport Board, are still under consideration.
Yep.
So let the minutes reflect, if the minutes reflect those changes. So, any other corrections or anything else concerning the consent agenda? If not, a motion to approve.
Motion.
Support.
All right. You still with us, Pete and Tom? Hello, Pete and Tom, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We have the motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Hamel. Hamel. Eggers.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Hint.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
All right. Yes, moving on now to old business mayor's appointments. We were able to fill a couple positions for the library board. Caleb Scroose will be serving a term on that board. If I'm not mistaken, he may be the youngest member. Oh, Caleb is here. Thank you, Caleb. Good. Thank you for serving in that role. And then also for, what was the other one? Oh, Park Board, Lori Anderson is also going to serve in that role. So thank you to her as well. And she's here. So, okay, motion to approve those appointments, please.
So moved. Support.
Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Moving on then to item 5 on our agenda, dealing with the banking services. We have a resolution designating the place to deposit of funds and prescribing the maximum amounts. Is there any comments anybody here would like to make to that at this time? All right.
I guess I'll start with my question to either Sam, you, or Angie, to if you could kind of illustrate for us exactly what all would entail a change of bank. What all would be involved with that? I know it's a very broad question, but I just want to get a gravity of the scope of what we're talking about here.
I would consider it a major undertaking. With the amount of ACH and electronics that we are forced to receive and pay, I think it's going to take quite a while to contact every different entity that we have to change those bank accounts. and we might not remember that one. It'll take quite a bit of work.
And Sam, could you tell us a little bit about who you talked to as far as getting some insight into this?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Wayne. So, Iowa Public Agency Investment Trust is a consortium similar to, or it's sponsored by the Iowa League of Cities. So it's similar to ICAP for liability insurance or workers' comp. They are an approved depositor for Sheldon. We have not used them in a long time because we have very competitive banking here, and so it isn't necessary to actually deposit in IPATE, but the services in a situation like this are quite valuable and they're free. And so Dan provided a pretty good proposal. The sentence in my report summarizes it the best, and his basic summary is, and it's a quote from him, and it summarizes the whole thing, is if you want the best variable market rate option, the people's option number one is the best, which has the first year at the fixed rate and the rest subject to the T-bill rate plus the I think it was 39 basis points. If you're looking for a middle-of-the-road proposal where you have stability for 3 years and then subject yourself to the market, again, People's wins. If you want market, Northwestern offers the best option. It really comes down to what everyone is comfortable with. So here's what we wrestle with, is when we put together the original RFP, it was structured to try to take advantage of the markets. And at the time, the interest rates were going up. Well, interest rates are now going down. We're thinking 5 year, we're looking at 5 years out. So, if we had to do it, one of the things when the RFP came in, and I just actually discussed with Angie the idea of how would it be received if we went back to the other three banks and asked all four banks for a 3-year fixed rate and a 5-year fixed rate. The only bank that offered a 5-year fixed rate was Northwestern, and the only one that offered a 3-year fixed rate was People's. We decided that wouldn't be fair to do because we didn't ask for that in the RFP. We did ask for creativity, and it could be a point could be made that it was creative what Northwestern did, offering a 5-year fixed rate, and there's some appeal to that. So, don't feel pressured to make a decision today. This is a big decision. This is something that we don't believe has been done in the modern history of Sheldon, at least since 1970. The banking has been the same as what it is today. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. It was very interesting learning curve for me. I scarcely knew what a T-bill was, let alone how basis points will affect it, and upon we're out there. I guess I'm not 100% comfortable being the financial advisor for the city. I'm just a dumb guy that works on computers and happens to be liked by enough people to be here. But I guess I'm curious to what my fellow councilmen have to say on the subject.
I'll give you my 2 cents worth. Listening to Angie, visited with her, thinking about my own checking account, and then relating to the cities with all the payroll, all the water bills, and all the revenue from the state coming in. That's all electronically, and it's going to get even more as we move down the road. I just don't see the savings by the time you spend all the time and effort to change that, and we have a fixed rate for 5 years. Let's take the 5-year offer and go with the 5-year offer. We're guaranteed for 5 years. The market's going to change. We have an election coming, and I don't know what the Washington are doing. And
Nor do I think they know.
So I think let's take the safe road, do the 5-year term. We're locked in for 5 years. and then, because I think Angie and the gals are going to have one big nightmare of switching banks. So I like the 5-year locked-in interest rate. We've already seen we did see lower interest go down from Peoples from a month ago to the revised plan. So we did see it go down only 0.6%, but so is that a sign of the rest of the interest rates going down?
Right, yeah, a sign of confidence.
Yeah. So my crystal ball is not really good, so I like the locked-in 5-year rate. We know what we got. And the other side of it is, let's say the economy tanks and we go below 4 million. We're only guaranteed 1.5%. With Northwestern, I believe it's still the rate they locked in for 5 years.
And Sam, I know that a lot of the reasoning behind going back to the lenders to a recalculation of the potential balances. So from what you're seeing with things coming down the road, different payouts and that sort of thing, our standing balance is going to tend lower. Is that right?
It could be. We think it will. Angie and I think it will probably still be in the 7 million range, but it could drop as low as 4.5, especially if we continue to pay off our TIF debt as fast as we are, and finish the wastewater treatment plant as fast as we are, and if we don't take on additional debt. So we needed to disclose that it might fall. We don't think it will, but it might fall below 4.5. One option you have, and we'd have to get the reaction from banks on this, but the two Northwestern and Peoples. One option you have is right now we have approximately in Peoples. So if theoretically you could increase the amount that you have in Peoples by, let's say, $500,000 or $1 million, keep the rest with Northwestern, and then you're still benefiting both banks. Now, I'm not sure what they would say to that, but I do believe you would have the option to do that, because this is not a sealed competitive bid process. This is a request for proposal, and we have the ability to pick and choose.
And with the money market accounts that we have, how liquid are they? Should we need to raid that storage? How efficiently can we do that?
I came up with that suggestion a moment ago without talking to Angie, so we'll see what she the idea that I just mentioned a little bit ago. We have approximately 4.1 million, if I remember right, in a People's money market. So the threshold is 4.5. So let's say we take 800,000, try to get up our other funds and put it into People's. We also have a couple of other trails accounts in one of the other banks. Move that over. You see where I'm going with this? And then you could have a minimum of 4.5 in People's and keep the rest with Northwestern. That way, People's gets something for having participated in the RFP and coming forward with a good proposal, and the city gets the benefit of higher basis points by at least having some money with People's. It's just an idea.
I got a question on that thought. Then if we give one to the next bank, then we need to go to 3 and 4. Right. Just because I think you're going to open up a can of worms there.
Lyle, did you want to add something?
Quick clarification. Our proposal is that they would be checking accounts with interest, so they're not money markets, so they're available daily, so there's no limits. So.
Okay.
And that's the reason we propose that. If you go a money market, then there's restrictions on the number of withdrawals you can make per month.
Sure.
But with a checking account with interest, it's unlimited. So just clarification there.
Pete or Tom, I'm assuming you're in on all this conversation. Is there anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, this is Tom. First of all, I'd like to know who was last speaking to this issue.
Lyle Kuiper with People's Bank.
Okay, thank you. The reason we're here is discussing this is that it's our attempt to better manage our money through the checking accounts of what we have in the past. So, looking at where we come from, any of these proposals are much better than where we come from. But what I question, and I'd like to get a little feedback from any of the lenders that are participating there, is that if this proposal is only taking a look at the checking account, as a city, we can go ahead and invest any portions of that money into other financial opportunities, like in savings accounts or other venues. Is that correct?
So just to clarify here, because this is an interesting setup, you should see this. We would have the flexibility to do, if we went all in one bank, we would have the flexibility to do with that money what we wanted to as far as splitting that up. Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that we don't need to keep all of our monies in a checking account. Why can't we keep a minimum amount in the checking account and utilize other investment venues that this proposal allows us to do, correct?
I guess from a clarification, what's that?
I was thinking at People's it was a combined balance of checking and saving. Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm sorry.
I think it was, well, the point Lyle made was that it was a interest-bearing checking account.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was all that's pooled to.
Taken and invested at other banks. A lot of that money, if we've got to keep a combined balance above something.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
what I'm getting at. Okay.
And Sam, I guess this is kind of pulling this out of the air, but how fluid do we need to keep all of these funds? Or Ange, I guess I don't know who to ask that question to, or if there even is an answer to be had for that.
All the funds are different, you know. I mean, the wastewater plant, of course, we've got to keep that because those come in monthly pretty much at the rate that they're moving. We have other capital improvement funds that we aren't using right now that have leftover funds in them that we use as we find the need to. We have bond funds in different, like Crossroads North. That probably, we wouldn't have initially invested that, but then when we delayed it, but then you've got all of our operating funds, the water, the sewer, the general fund, those need to be available. So it really varies.
And it seems like with the aggressiveness, Sam, that you're going after trying to get this loan dollar amount down, we're not sitting on a lot of money. It seems like you're being very proactive as far as getting that debt paid off.
Right, we're sitting on a lot of active funds, meaning we have good cash flow, which keep, but we're not just sitting in the past, we had a fair amount of money sitting in TIF, and that's been spent down to the tune of $2.2 million just this year.
Pete, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. And Sean, anything you'd want to add?
No, I think I'm good on what's been said.
Okay. This is one of those situations for me that has, as you review the proposals, it staggers the mind a little.
Mm-hmm.
I have investments, some with my local, and I have a son-in-law that's also an investment counselor. I've told my son-in-law, your inheritance is somewhat dependent on how well you do your job. So there's a little more extra motivation there. But as we go through all this, it's just tough to know what's the number. It's fluid. Markets go down, and so we have a recommendation from Mr. Zimmerman with the Iowa Public, but there are some intangible things that also enter into that. The amount of work that it would take to shift over these accounts. And so my question, I guess, right now is, are we ready to make this decision, or do we need to let this simmer for a while and come back in 2 weeks?
I think we have the facts before us. I don't think the facts are going to change. I'm comfortable with making a decision.
Okay.
Sam, do you have any, I know you're connected with your Iowa League of Cities and things like that. Have you received any insight from any of your peers as to the different setups they have, fixed versus variable, and any of the advice that you've received that way?
Well, when we put together the RFP, we were looking at variable because that's what everyone else had looked at. We did as encouraged, and it certainly was a creative response to have a 5-year fixed rate. And so the short answer is that I'm not aware of other communities that have a 5-year fixed rate offer on the table that's as good as the offer that you have in front of you.
I'm trying
it is a good offer.
And I'm trying to figure out that where else we could ever get that kind of return and security at the same time. That seems to be looking at that charts and just seeing all the uncertainty out there. It's staggering. I mean, it really is. But I will also agree with Brad that I don't think the facts are going to change. We've let this money sit dormant for too long. So now it's time for us to make a decision.
And if I might say one more thing.
Yes.
Keep in mind that we are not bound to keep every penny with whichever bank we choose for the entire 5 years. We still have the right to do what we have done all along, which is get quotes on CDs, competitive quotes.
Yeah.
So if the interest rates go up, then we would and they go up significantly, then we would be able to do an RFP and amongst the banks, and then make a decision through the clerk's office and move money around, which we have been doing for years.
Yeah.
So
I would say, in light of that idea, knowing that we would have the security of having a fixed number for 5, would make a motion that we go with Northwestern's proposal.
I'll second that motion.
All right. You heard the motion, I assume, Pete and Tom?
They did
Nope.
Awesome.
Tom, Todd, I'm gonna try to get you back in.
Nine.
I'm just glad you're not complaining to me anymore.
Whose new phone system is this?
We got you working.
That's what I heard.
Pete, this is Todd. I'm gonna try to get you back in. All right, Pete, are you there?
Yes.
Tom, are you there?
Yes.
At least at the council.
Okay.
I don't know if I got my.
we have been discussing this, obviously. We have a motion on the floor. How much did you hear? Did you hear the motion? I guess that's my first question.
I did not.
Okay, did you hear the discussion leading up to the motion?
I heard most of it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to have Ange read the motion so that you can hear it now. We have a motion and a support, so this is the motion.
Go with Northwestern Bank for the fixed 5-year rate.
And we have support for that. Do either of you have any additional questions or comments?
I think the last point I'd like to make in relationship to the questions I was asking is that I think our potential is in the investment side of utilizing those monies, not in the checking account. So I think make the most of the city's money in that regard.
And Pete, do you have any additional comments?
My comment would be that I think that we do have some flexibility, so I'm okay.
There are no more questions, then I'm going to call for a roll call.
Farahona.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye. Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on now to the police and public works unions. Preston DeBoer is here with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees as the union rep. You have any comments you'd like to make and bring us up to date on this, Preston?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and several of the council members that I've already had the opportunity to meet with off-site, along with the city administrator and the city's attorney. I would like to also take this opportunity to congratulate Eric in his new adventure as a former law enforcement officer. I can guarantee you in for...
Thank you.
Going back, some of this goes beyond my time. I've been serving in my current capacity. The organization of the two unions took place separately at different times. The police union request of the police officers, and at that time, I guess what we would call a straw poll was taken also of the public works, who expressed union was formed independently at that time. Also, it might be pertinent to note that the group was larger at that time because it also included a dispatch staff. Those numbers have declined. The dispatch function is now handled by the county, and the dispatch staff is no longer filing a document with PERB to make that adjustment and remove those positions from the group certification.
And just for those here, can you tell the acronym PERB, what does that stand for?
That is the state agency that governs public employment, collective bargaining, and related topics for the state. And like I said, some years later, the Public Works made the decision to approach the AFSCME to come and organize the Public Works group, which was done. And at that time, there was no mention or no comment as to joining those two together. I think there were probably a few more. The dispatch was still in operation. And, like I said, since then, the numbers on both sides have declined. One other aspect that we were able in our discussions early on was to find that the staff within the city clerk's office are predominantly cross-trained. And by cross-training, they were able to they're not completely specialized, and essentially that would bring them under the law considered a confidential employee, which is excluded from inclusion. So in both unions, we have at least the responsibility now to adjust both of their certifications. This must be done, and PERB has made those requests over the last year for employers and unions to bring those certifications current. The straw that broke the camel's back occurred back in February of 2017, the 16th to be exact, when the state legislature decided that there was some change that needed to be done to a standing law that had existed for some 40 years and very effectively. I guess my view on this, to be succinct, is that under the guise of increasing local control, they actually stepped on the employees and slapped the employers in the face by essentially insinuating that the employers, such as the city of Sheldon, were incapable of negotiating their own contracts successfully. My argument for that is, since I have taken this position, and this was echoed by a couple of the councilmen that I had the opportunity to speak with, is that negotiations over the period of time that I've been here has been very productive, and kind of a cakewalk, I think, was one of the terms that was used. That's my goal, personally. Having seen how both sides, I would like to eliminate the us and them mentality that often is attributed to the union-employer relationship. And in doing so, rather than taking it upon myself to file this petition independently, and the petition would be filed with PERB, it's the application, if you wanted to say it that way, asking PERB to take a look at the facts in this case and make a decision. To streamline, to make that more efficient, okay? And I have done this in numerous communities, most recently in Sioux City, where there are two groups that basically I approached the employer with what our concept was and asked them for a stipulation. And the stipulation essentially is support of the facts contained in the petition, and those facts are correct, and the reasoning, there's a statement in there that says this is the reason why we're doing this. Right now, we negotiate these contracts separately, okay? If you take a look at the contracts, and Sam and I have had looked these over, they're far more alike than they are dissimilar. You have different wage scales, and I see Ann just shaking her head. So one of the opportunities we have is to save the time, the money, the energy in negotiating one contract rather than negotiating two contracts that are more alike than different. And one example of how well this works is just up the road here in Orange City. All of their employees are combined under one contract. And that is the way that those options are essentially left up to us as a union, as how do we want to organize. And I know there was some emphasis back before my time, I don't know if you want to, for bragging rights or whatever, that you had X number of groups that you represented. I don't really, depend on that too much. It's not about how many I do or how, it's more how do I do it. And I would like to make this process more efficient. I would like to ensure the equity, the fairness, and the right to kind of resurrect what we had prior to our last go-round in negotiations, where there was some resentment that was voiced and has been echoed for how things went in our last negotiations. I think that it seems to me, and I'm not a person that believes in coincidence, that I was on my way from Sioux City. I was going to stop in Sheldon and meet the new city administrator, and I think I was in the Orange City area. Sam actually called me, and he wanted to talk to me about another issue. And so I stopped by. It was like 4:30 or whatever when I got here, and we visited about these things. Sam, I shared my ideas with him as far as the merger. Also talked a little bit briefly about the potentially of extensions on the contract. Sam brought up the topic of essentially how the city was taking another look at what had happened with the insurance in the previous negotiation. And I'll be honest, I was quite surprised by what Sam had to share, and quite pleased with what Sam's saying, the increase in the premium contributions for the union employees, and then making some adjustment to bring parity, to bring relative fairness and equity amongst the union and non-union employees. This is seems probably a lot more complicated than it is. Basically, the process involves submitting the petition, okay? If I submit the petition along with a stipulation, which is what I'm asking for from the city, the process becomes much more efficient. Basically, PERB makes their decision based upon what they have in hand. If I submit the petition without the stipulation, then a hearing will be called or whatever for that hearing and show their evidence as to why this merger should not take place. Again, this isn't new. It's not illegal. It's not underhanded or shady. I mean, we're doing this elsewhere. And to be honest, I have a personal tie for this, because through this whole process, we have lost some groups, lost some members. And so being on the upper end of the seniority chain, my area is quite likely going to be expanded. And so what I'm doing is looking at those employers where I have multiple contracts that could be combined, and then I'm looking to do that in multiple locations. Because I already travel the most miles of all the group that is on the planning stages to be expanded. So I'm looking at trying to manage all of this at the same time, essentially kill multiple birds with one stone. I know there's been a lot of questions, and I thank you guys all for giving me the opportunity. I spoke to Brad yesterday. He gave me probably a lot more time than what we'd originally thought. But what I've taken away from it is a genuine interest to understand before making a decision, because all of the questions that have been asked are very poignant. The other thing is that gives me pause, and I want to express the gratitude that has been expressed to me by both the Public Works Group and the Police Department, is that is a very proactive stance that the city has taken in making the adjustments to the health insurance. And even though I have some of my peers that aren't too familiar with, and therefore not too SAs, that we were able to get the HSA as another option for the employees here. I only have one other group that's gone to an HSA. I can tell you that I received some resistance from my superiors, but my superior is also the person that used to service this area. And when I told him, I said, look, it's the folks' decision. And I said, this is a very workable thing. I understand this process. This is something I've been involved with for some period of time. And I asked Sam to make a phone call to the city administrator in Esterville to ask her how it was going. And, you know, what I hear from the employees there isn't complaints about claims not getting handled or the insurance is too high or anything. I have $30,000+ that I can use towards my retirement down the road because I'm managing my health care expenses. So that's a wonderful option, and the freezing of the increase was also very well received, and I wanted to pass that along. I don't want to carry this on any longer, so I'm going to open this up to any questions. I've had a chance to talk to Councilman Eggers and Councilman Hint and the mayor, and if there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy to put forth an effort to answer those.
So, based on what happens today, what does the timeline look like?
Well, the timeline, what we're trying to do, and I'll today, okay? Just like your banking situation, these things have lots of little nooks and crannies and things like that. And I'm glad that Sam sought Micah's input on this because it kind of helps cut through some of this. Submitting the petition with the stipulation, we're probably going to be on time for negotiations this fall. Okay? If I submit the petition without the stipulation, and I've been working with an administrative law judge that works for the PERB. She informed me the other day that they are short-staffed. They just recently 3 members and multiple administrative law judges. They were short 2 ALJs. They were short 1 member. The member has been replaced by appointment. But basically the bottom line was she heard a case last August, and they have not written the decision to date. And what that means, what that bottom line means, is that we would either, our next case would be, if we had to submit that, my next request would be for extensions of the current contract to preserve the employees' rights until this matter could be.
And that extension, is that formality? I mean, or is that something that would have to be discussed?
I've already, basically what I'm doing right now is when the contract expires, okay, and we're looking at contract expiration of June 30th of 2020. Once that contract expires, your public works folks list of those items that are mandatory subjects of bargaining shrinks to 1. Okay. In contrast, that same list of mandatory subjects that would be available to the police department members only shrinks by 1. Okay. So, and that one basically involves the elimination of. So that comes out of both, but essentially Public Works, the only thing they would have that would be a mandatory subject of bargaining would be base wages. And that same restriction does not apply to the police department. They are unfettered by the limitations that are put on Public Works. What I have witnessed in several areas all across the state is when you separate those two and you give this one basically the same rights that they've always had and take the rights away from this group from what they've had in this group for up to 20-some years, that builds resentment between those departments, between those employees. And it also builds resentment from that group that loses their rights against the employer. That results in go try to find a better gig someplace else, which raises the cost for the employer having to hire, having to train, and folks coming into the same situation. So to oversimplify, what we're asking for is the opportunity to make this process more efficient and at the same time keep things the way they are and put them back on track. And I think that the city has taken that first step in what they've done with the insurance here recently. And I think they can help us to take the next step by agreeing to the stipulation and getting this process started.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Preston? And that includes you, Pete and Tom, if you're still with us.
Yeah.
have one question. And as far as the employees of the two unions, are they all in support of this idea?
Yeah. The only individual that I did not seek a response from was Scott DeGuy because of his pending retirement.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'll just throw my comment out there. This is kind of a union thing. It's amongst their members. Do the members want to join? We don't encourage the members. We don't tell them they can join or can't join the union. So I think, me as a councilman, I think I need to stay neutral on this because this is a union deal. The unions want to merge council.
Well, to answer that, you don't get to remain neutral. The petition will be filed.
Then they file a petition.
And then you have to go to hearing, and you're going to have to show cause why it should not take place.
I think it's up to a union. If the union members want it, then I think the union members should endorse it. I don't think we as the council need to endorse it.
That's why the PERB has created the stipulation to save the time and the energy required to go through the hearing process. If you don't have an objection, because that's basically what the hearing is for. So if you don't have an objection, that's what the stipulation is. That's the purpose of the stipulation.
I don't have an objection to them joining, but I don't think we need to endorse it.
It's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement. It's a stipulation to the facts stated in the petition. Did you read the petition?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any errors in that petition?
I'm just telling you my comment as a councilman. I'm not going to get into between the two unions. If they want to join, let them join. I think we as a councilman, I want to stay neutral.
And I don't know, I guess since we kind of lost Micah on this deal.
Micah, do I still have you? I can try to patch you in, yeah.
I think at this stage, I think we just let this. I would rather wait and have him. I think have everybody at the desk.
Have you been hearing the conversation, Micah, or not?
I've been hearing intermittent part of it, and I think the question right now is the question endorsement.
Correct.
Okay.
I think you got everybody right now.
You're live, buddy.
You don't want to know how you have everybody, but you have everybody.
Okay. So is there a question directed to me?
I would direct a question. In your professional opinion, Micah, is a stipulation an endorsement, or is it just a stipulation to the facts that are contained in the petition?
And who's posing the question?
Preston.
The document just is an agreement of the city with the facts outlined in the document. So the document itself specifically for a certain thing, but the consequence of the stipulation is to take away the opportunity for the city to object to the merger or to have the de facto result of slowing down the merger. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
So is this a situation, and I'll use a very cliche phrase, but to try to, again, it'll probably be oversimplification, but are we at the point right now where it's speak now or forever hold your peace?
You're asking Micah or me?
Yes.
No. But like Sam had indicated, I encourage you to look things over until you're comfortable. I think your next meeting is 2 weeks from today, and I've cleared
3
my
weeks.
3 weeks.
August 7th.
7th. Yeah, August. Well, 7th was what we talked about. that I basically have already arranged to clear my schedule to be available for that meeting as well. So, I don't think 3 weeks is going to sink the ship, but we are up against some timelines that are immovable, and those timelines are set by law. And like I said, at one point I wanted to say is that on the front of this, we agreed because of what was already started. I had been asked to hold back on this until that process was completed, and I agreed to do that. So, it isn't that we were late in getting this started. It's just that there were too many things going on, and frankly, we didn't want to bombard you with this. So,
no, it's appreciated.
We took a back seat.
Well, I am of the opinion that if, in your estimation, 3 weeks is not going to sink the ship, that we continue this on to the next meeting.
Any objections to that?
This is Micah. I'm not hearing all of it, so I apologize for the interruption. But is this suggestion on the floor to withhold making a decision
Until August 7th.
Okay, I would be in support of that for the opportunity to weigh in with or address additional questions that they might have.
All right, then I'm going to go with those comments and table this until our August 7 meeting to make a decision.
Okay. Thanks again for your time and attention, both at this meeting and before. I appreciate the investment that you've made in that.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward, reports. Sam, you first. Anything? Okay. Todd, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I just thought I would pass along that it's been a very busy week for us, especially in the wastewater world. Late yesterday, we did cut some flow over to our new wastewater treatment plant. As of today, actually, just right before I came to this meeting, we were diverting about 30% of the city's flow into the new plant. It's operating well. We're running it through 2 of the 4 cells. It's current meeting existing plant limits. It's not meeting new plant limits yet, but we wouldn't expect it to. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, the plan is to start seeding and put into operation the other 2 cells. And I would say by a week from today, 100% of Sheldon's wastewater flow will be in our new plant. So things are
explain that
proceeding
process of seeding to me, please.
So to get biology going, you essentially transport sludge from another plant, and you place that in the bottom of our aeration basins, so that you have active bugs, for lack of a better term, produce all of our own from scratch.
Gotcha.
And then as we feed it with our wastewater, then it becomes it activates much sooner. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep. And then we'll build our own base as we continue to give it more.
Okay.
It's exciting news. Things are going well. I know it may not seem exciting, but
hooray for poo!
Yeah, it's trust me, it's quite an undertaking when you do this, and then it's a little stressful because what do you do if you're not meeting permit limits by the time you're ready to discharge? What do you do with 1 million gallons a day of waste? You got to pump it back, and you got to have a lot of contingency plans before you ever start this. So for us, I won't say it went problem-free, but for the amount of planning and time we put into it for it to go reasonably well, I'm excited, and kudos to the staff of Hugendorn and our wastewater treatment Paulson. They did a bang-up job to get us to this point, so it's going well.
Terrific. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else from you? Kurt, do you have anything? No. Lyle? All right, then I'll ask for comments from the gentleman on the left.
Good.
Wayne?
Todd, just one follow-up here regarding the sewer situation from our last meeting.
Yes.
Just wanted to see if we can get an update on that.
Sure. So we cameraed the line. We cameraed from 8th Avenue to 11th Avenue. There were some routes, some places nothing exciting, some places a little more excessive. I have actually not seen those videos as of yet. but I will be getting them at a later date.
I seen they were.
So we because there were some roots, we did go ahead and contract with Rehab Systems to come in and root cut. Based upon what we've seen between 8th and 11th, we actually had them root cut from 5th Ave entire stretch of sewer. I know they had told us they were going to make it today, and I really didn't think they would with the rains the last 2 mornings, but they actually did get here this afternoon. It's my understanding that they got that area done. I have not had a chance to speak to them directly because I've been at the new plant all day long. So when I get some more information, I'll pass it along. But I know they did root cut there. I believe all of it this afternoon.
Yeah, because when I came to the council meeting, it looked like they were pulling out a camera on 9th Avenue and 11th Street.
The intent after we root cut it was to also then go back in camera at a minimum at least a block between 8th and 9th. To essentially get a before and after picture, and I'm actually curious to see how well of a job everybody did on a couple of those reports. So we're working on it. I wish I had a greater detail for you, but I just didn't get a chance to talk to Rehab between that
And stuff done.
Yep.
You know,
That's
we're
right.
moving forward. So
We are, yes, absolutely.
All right, good. I have no comments, so at this point, then, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have the motion. Roll call, please.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hamel. Kent.
Aye.
Brewster.
Aye.
Farahona.
aye.
We are adjourned.